307, welcome back. How do you know that you're donating to something that is real when you see a GoFundMe online? There was an old photo of Ontario children that was apparently used in a fake fundraiser for Texas flood victims. A mother from Burlington, Ontario discovered this. She has 6 children, and one fundraiser that was up on GoFundMe actually had 6 of her children, a picture of them right there. And a friend contacted her to tell her that this old photo was being circulated. And clearly, what was a fake fundraiser that had nothing to do with her, because it was being linked to families of the victims of the floods that happened in Texas. That's Julie Cole, and she joins us right now. She's the Burlington mom of 6. Hi, Julie.
Oh, hi, Kristy.
This must have been a really strange and unsettling experience for you. How did you find out, and how did you feel?
Yeah, look, so what had happened was a contact on LinkedIn reached out to me, and it was like, Julie, there's I just saw a GoFundMe, and it's got a picture of your 6 kids, but it's from like an old picture. In it, the youngest is a newborn, and now that youngest is 16. So it's like a 16-year-old picture.
Wow.
And yeah, and so I was like, what? I click on it, and sure enough, and it was a fundraiser for a single mom of 6 who's 3 daughters had died in the floods, and so she had to pay for these funerals. She was also a widow because her husband had died of COVID. So I was like, oh my, there's a picture of my, I've got 6 kids, and I'm like looking at the pictures. My daughter's like, oh, they're paying for my funeral by the looks of things. So I was like, I thought it was unsettling, mostly because, sure, it's not cool to rip off photos and take them without consent, but it is the internet. And then the second thing was, if they had used it for, a kid's brand or something like that, I would be like annoyed, but whatever. But this was for something like to try and have a fake fundraiser in the backs of this tragedy that has happened. It's just, that was the part that I found really sort of disgusting about it all.
You are not this fake person, Annie Johnson. You're not in Texas. You're in Burlington, Ontario.
Exactly.
And these kids are all way older. How strange. How did they get the photo? Where did the photo come from?
So I figure it came from, look, I'm out there. My family is out there. I am the co-founder of Mabel's Label. So I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm like one of the OG mommy bloggers. So I'm always in the digital space, have been. But I think parents, this is a good eye opener. You have to be aware that this can happen. I think it came from years ago. I wrote a very tongue-in-cheek post, that article that went kind of viral, and it was called 6 Reasons to Have 6 Kids. And that was the photo I used in it. So I figure they must have nabbed it from that. But again, that's a very old article.
Right. And so once the listing was sent to you, you contacted GoFundMe. The fundraiser was taken down. Do you have any thoughts on how they might want to navigate this in the future, on how they might want to take a look at these listings?
Right. So that's the thing with GoFundMe. And there's the other lesson I think people need to learn is that, you need to know where your fundraising dollars are going. Anybody can set up a GoFundMe. Now, I did report it, and they took it down. I'm going to say reported it around noon on Tuesday. It was gone Wednesday morning. So I think within the 24 hours it was done. And I know they are pretty diligent about once there's been a report, and I know people can get their money back. But, I would just say people who are doing the donations, it's got to be somebody like just don't be doing like random donations to people you don't know, because there's nothing to stop anyone from setting up a fake fundraiser.
Thanks so much for joining us, Julie.
You bet.
Julie Cole, who got contacted by somebody on social media saying, hey, there's an old photo of your 6 kids, and they're being used in this fake attempt to collect money for people in Texas. Your kids are in Ontario. You're being used here, Julie. How do you know what you're donating to on GoFundMe or online anywhere is real? I want to welcome on our next guest, Tanya Walker, who's a Canadian litigation lawyer and managing partner at Walker Law. She specializes in fraud cases. Hi, Tanya. Thanks for coming on.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
You heard that segment with Julie. I'm sure that you hear quite a lot of this, don't you?
Yes, unfortunately, I do.
What can people do about it? How do you tell what you're looking at is real?
Well, you should check your campaign details very carefully. You look for direct connections to known organizations, and avoid sharing widely without verifying. Sometimes when a tragedy like this happens, it really triggers our heart when we see a picture like this, and we share because we want that person to get as much money as possible to pay for what they need to pay for, but we should do a little bit more due diligence before we do that.
I know in the wake of the LA wildfires that were absolutely devastating, lots of people lost their homes. GoFundMe fundraising campaigns sprung up, and some of them were not legitimate. People were requesting money, saying that they needed money to replace their homes or their small businesses. If they're an artist materials and supplies that were lost to the fire. And in reality, these were linked sometimes to even false Instagram accounts.
Yes, that is true.
Right. So it seems like a pretty common thing. On the part of the website, do you think that there's any more safeguards that could be put in place?
Well, I mean, platforms have started to add stronger ID verification and requiring proof of relationships to beneficiaries. So it's good that we are moving towards that trend. But I like to say that fraud is relatively rare in these situations. GoFundMe actually says it's a small fraction of campaigns. But the problem with that is a small percentage could affect a very large percentage of people because it undermines trust. And with a situation like this, you don't want someone to say, you know what, I don't want to donate because I don't know if that person is real or that organization is real.
Oh, exactly.
So
because there are so many worthwhile causes and people go through tragedy. I mean, in our city right now, there's a GoFundMe up for a woman in her 30s who was struck by a part of a falling tree limb in Almont. She was just walking across the street, 8 a.m, the day after a storm, not even during a storm, and she was hit by part of a tree limb, and she sadly succumbed to those injuries. And it's really beautiful, I think, to see the outpouring of support. People are on the GoFundMe. This one is very legitimate. I want to say that to the listeners that are tuned in, and they want to share their support for the family. So people do want an avenue to do that. It's just important to make sure that you know which link you're clicking on.
Yes, it is. I mean, I've done it personally with a high school friend, and the only reason I really felt comfortable is because I was able to verify that information was correct. I contacted the friend's sister and said, okay, did this really happen? There was a fire in the home and the home burnt down. She said yes, and I felt comfortable donating money as well as telling some of my other high school friends about what happened so they can donate money as well. So it's a really great initiative, GoFundMe. We just have to be very careful because there's a lot of fraudulent actors in this world. It's very hard to catch them.
Thanks so much for the time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Tanya Walker, Canadian litigation lawyer who specializes in fraud cases. Again, I do want to say, in the case of Julie Cole, the Burlington mother who had her 6 kids in a really old photo put up for a fake Texas flood fundraiser, GoFundMe did respond and they did yank it down, and they did so. And they said as well in a statement that that fundraiser did not get any donations. So don't worry about that. The photo was used, and that's rather unsettling, but the account was banned. They cannot create any further fundraisers on the platform, and any money that was generated was not actually given to the fraudster. 3:16 on the show.